Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at Riderflex. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the Riderflex show for updates on new episodes. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out the book we recently launched, The Riderflex Guide, Inspiring and Hiring, available for purchase on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Lucas Haldeman on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, Lucas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Are you in Arizona today?
Yeah, I'm in our office in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's getting a little warm, but still pretty nice here.
I like Scottsdale. Been there many times.
Yeah.
I like it. And yeah, it's you're edging up to the part of the year that I don't like with July and August.
Yeah. Well, it cuts both ways because we also get about half the population leaves, and so traffic gets better, golf gets faster. So there's silver lining to every cloud, right? And actually, that's a bad metaphor because we basically have no clouds all summer. So.
What's your average temperature in the wintertime?
Average temperature in the high is in the high 70s, low 80s in the winter.
That's nice. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I need a home in Scottsdale and then one in Colorado in the mountains in the summertime. That's what I need.
That's a common one. A lot of people here do that. Not me. I'm stuck here year round. But
where are you from originally?
Actually, funny enough, I grew up in Colorado, where you're just mentioning. So I grew up in a little town called Boulder, Colorado, up in the mountains above Boulder, and spent 18 good years there before moving on.
Wow. Okay, so you went to high school, Boulder High?
I graduated from Boulder High. Yep.
How about that? I live about 40 minutes from Boulder, just up near Loveland, northern Colorado.
Yep. Yeah. So I grew up in Sunshine Canyon. If you know that one, I know.
Do you still know people from Boulder? Because I've had a shit ton of those guys on the podcast.
Yes, some. Although most people I know actually aren't from Boulder. Because the tech boom, when I was there, it wasn't a tech hub. It was just kind of a hippie hub. It was kind of cool, but it wasn't high tech.
That's true, right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the population was a lot different in Colorado back then.
Yeah.
Have you been to northern Colorado lately?
Yes. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, Fort Collins when we were growing up was just a sleepy little town, and now it's an amazing place. And I should have gotten into craft beer. I missed my calling, I guess. But
I had this couple come in from California. They purchased an RV that we were selling, and the guy comes in. He goes, "Man, I feel like your whole state is under construction." I know. Yeah, it feels that way. So what'd your mom and dad do? Talk to me about your family, mom, dad, siblings.
Yeah, I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters, but not the traditional way. We weren't sort of the traditional family. A couple different fathers in there, but we all grew up together, all the kids. So my mom, raised us all, still close with my dad, and they're great. But so my mom actually had her own graphic design business when we were growing up, and so she would go and source graphic design work, and this was mainly for like catalogs. I mean, you think about how this is all gone to the web, right? But back then it was. So I was probably the only 3rd grader who knew how to use a non-photo blue pencil and do markups and get stuff camera ready. But because we would kind of just go around with her to the different jobs and kind of just follow her around. And and now she actually runs she left that, and now she runs a dance company that helps at-risk youth. So very, very cool. It's called Turning the Wheel, if anyone is interested in supporting it, but very, very cool. So I didn't know what it meant, but she was an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what that was. Right. So then my dad is a writer by trade, but can't really make money being a writer, and so he made his professional career primarily writing indexes of books. So if you think about these odd things that now a lot of times just a computer writes it, but if you want a really good index, you find a good indexer, and so you could read the book and write the index. So eclectic careers, not
Now,
traditional.
does he know about ChatGPT? Now ChatGPT can write your index for you.
He does not, but he knew he knew that's where the world was going anyway. Because even before ChatGPT, like computers can identify keywords and pull them out and tell you what page they're on, or you don't even need an index because you just search the document.
That's right. Yeah, true. Yeah. Good point. Are they both retired now? Or no, your mom's doing the nonprofit. How about your dad? Is he
Yeah.
retired?
Dad's retired. Yeah.
Okay.
My mom is still going, so I don't know. She's still on the road almost as much as I am, and I don't know. When are you going to slow down? But
Were you out of the let's see, seven children altogether? Then, if I did my math right.
Yep.
Were you the good kid, the bad kid, the rebel, the average kid? Where were you in there as far as behavior goes, Lucas?
Yeah, no, this is a good question. So I was the fifth, and so by the time I came along, they'd already seen a lot of stuff. But I definitely kind of was more of the troublemaker. My sister, who's my next oldest sibling, is my sister. She was incredibly well behaved and very studious, and I was always super bored in school, just so bored, and
Gotcha.
so kind of had idle time to think about getting into trouble, and somehow I had a chemistry class I took like in fifth grade. Like, this would be completely inappropriate even back then, but the guy taught us how to make gunpowder and homemade fireworks. It was like an after school thing. And so I took to that. I loved that a lot. I think so. I mean, I wasn't like a juvenile delinquent, but I was kind of a troublemaker and constantly bored.
And did you ever have to call your mom from the sheriff's office or anything cool? Anything you want to confess right now to the audience?
Nothing that cool, unfortunately. Just general. And now that I have kids and kind of see that, I did apologize to both my mom and dad. Like, I'm sorry I put you through that because it must have not been that fun.
How many children do you have now?
I have three kids. My wife and I, 17, 14, and 11. And boy, it's so, parenting is just full of cliches, but you find out they're all absolutely true, so you're like, where did the time go? And I can't believe, so we have our oldest is going to be a senior next year. And we're at that moment of like, what happened? Where did all the time go? And everyone says that. It's like, but boy, is it true.
Oh, yeah, we have four and they're all grown. In fact, I have two granddaughters, but yeah, I will just tell you, Lucas, that, it is weird when they get out of the house. So brace yourself. I remember that first 12 months of being an empty nester. I'd come home from work. This is before I started Riderflex, and I'd kind of be sitting in the living room like, okay, well, now what do I do?
No, I know. It's years of what are you going to do with your Saturdays when you're not,
right.
engaged in various youth sports?
That's right. And nobody's gotten in trouble yet. I mean, 17 and 14, that's right about the age where they start kind of venturing out.
No, knock on wood. They're really amazing kids. So
that's good.
Better than I deserve. So they're like, karma somehow missed me on this one.
So how'd you meet your wife?
We met in college, actually. So I left Colorado and went to a small liberal arts school in Iowa. Wanted to kind of get out of Colorado, and the second week of school, we met through a mutual friend, and 28 years later, we're still together.
How about that? Congratulations,
Yeah,
28 years. Nice. Yeah. That takes work. Good job.
It does. Yeah.
Well, so CU and CSU, did you have any scholarships? You didn't want to go to CU or anything? You just be ready for a change?
Yeah, I think I knew if I went to CU, I probably would have just dropped out. I would have been kind of lost in the machine. So I think for me, a small school was perfect. So I went to Cornell College. We were on the block plan too, which Colorado College does the same thing, which is kind of how I was aware of it, and I was interested in it. And so instead of sort of taking 4 or 5 classes a semester, you take one class at a time, and it's for 4 weeks. So you go through an entire semester in 4 weeks, but only in one subject. And so
All
I
right.
really, it's not for everyone. It's intense, but I really loved it, and I thought for me. It was I could really focus on what I was learning, what I was into. So you can go
Mhm.
spend as much time as we're taking C++. I could stay in the computer lab for 12 hours and just focus on that and nothing else. And so
Mhm.
so that's what drew me to that school.
Do you remember how many students they had total population?
Yeah, we had about 1,200 total students. And at the time, it's a little bit bigger than that now. And classes were capped at 14. So, and you had all tenured professors. They didn't have a graduate school, so you didn't have any teaching assistants. And
Uh,
so it
I
was
like
you
it.
with a professor. And actually,
Yeah.
I still talk to some of those professors today, even. So,
That's great.
yeah,
I went to a small liberal arts school in Oklahoma myself with about 2,500 students, so I can relate.
yeah,
I can relate. It was great experience. Loved it, and the social experience was also pretty awesome because there were so few students, you were almost forced to mix in all groups. You couldn't really live in silos because it was just too small, right? And
yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah, exactly the same. Where it just sort of like there weren't enough people to say only the football guys hang out. It's like, well,
right, yeah,
like we all got to kind of hang out and find our commonalities versus focusing on
totally.
our differences.
Totally. Was your major computer science or economics or English? I can't tell. I'm looking at your LinkedIn pro or all of them.
So I did economics and business, English, and then a minor in essentially what was computer science
Wow.
and so but really what I was interested in was the web, even back then.
Okay.
So I'd learned some C++, some Java, but was always interested in the internet. Like I felt like the web was going to be
Hmm.
something amazing, which I never dreamed it'd be like it is today. But I just thought it was going to be a really impactful medium, and
Hmm.
a new medium. And
Yeah.
so that's really what I wanted to learn.
So you wanted to be in tech, in computers, in programming of some kind coming out of school.
Yeah, yes, and I thought my calling was to be a software engineer,
Hmm. Hmm.
which it wasn't, but at the time that's what I really thought, and so I started doing front end development, front end web work,
Okay.
um, and that's actually how I got into apartments. Now I didn't grow up in the apartment business. I mean, I certainly was aware that apartments existed, but
Yeah.
you don't really know that there's this whole industry behind it necessarily if you just live in an apartment.
Right. Right.
And so I got hired by a website that was putting the first database of apartments online. But it's a very weird thing to think about now in this day where everything's online. But at that time, 1997 timeframe, there wasn't a comprehensive database of apartments
Interesting.
that you could. So you had to go to the grocery store and get the book off the rack and see what was there, but you couldn't search online. And that's
Hmm.
what kind of got me into the apartment space.
And you were doing kind of front end stuff, but then let me guess, your leadership and your people skills and your personality and style pushed you towards product management and customer facing type stuff, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So I built this little demo of a product I'd been working on and went to the head of sales and showed it to him. He said, "What department do you work in?" I said, "I'm in the engineering department." He said, "Okay." He
Not,
said,
not anymore.
"You need, yeah, not anymore." It's like you sit over there now and you're called a product manager and come out on the road with me because I want you talking to customers about this. So
Yes.
early on, I
Yeah.
started doing that, and I found out really what I loved was product management, which is
Yeah.
which is which is the not having to actually physically code everything, but just the whole architecture, the idea that what's the product, and then seeing it being used and utilized is amazing for me. It's always been sort of very gratifying to come up with something, put it out there, and then actually see it getting used.
Was this Move Inc. or was this somebody else?
So this
This,
was, yeah, it became Move Inc. So
I see. I
yeah, we
see.
were, so it was kind of cool. Where All Apartments was the name of the company, but
Okay.
then we got acquired, and went public under the Home Store / Move brand. And so it
I
was
see.
realtor.com, our apartments brand, new homes, and then mortgage and living content. So it was a whole real estate portal. And
Wow.
so I continued my career there for a long time.
Nice.
And yeah, it's still a great site.
Did you know, I mean, okay, so you stayed there till like 2006. Were you having the entrepreneurial itch? Were you like, I want to, this is great. I'm learning a lot. I'm getting promoted. This is awesome, but kind of want to do my own thing. Was that in there already?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, very much so. So one of the downsides of going on the road and talking to all these apartment people was I kept hearing all these stories about, well, I was in college and I bought a duplex and now I fly around on my private jet. They were really good at crafting the story of like fast forwarding through, 30
Yeah.
years of grinding it out,
Yeah.
like from duplex to 30,000 units. But like,
Uh-huh.
and so I was really intrigued by that. So I started reading about real estate, and I read that at the time that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, was popular. Maybe it's still popular, but that was a fundamental book for me to read. Like that really was an important one for me, not coming from money. And I really think the author of that book did a great favor to a lot of people like me by just exposing you to that, or exposing me to that. And so I started thinking about, well, it's great. I've got this great career going, and I like working here, but should I be doing something for myself? And could I start something? And so that's where I did. That's like we left, and moved back to the Midwest, and Sarah and I started buying real estate, apartments, self storage.
Okay.
Got into the restaurant business and
Oh,
and started a fee management business. So basically, truly entrepreneurial. And I started a fee management business because we owned a small number of apartments. When we first started, we owned 42 apartment units, which I think
okay.
is statistically the worst possible number of apartments to own as an individual, because I was the head of leasing, the head of maintenance,
Oh, I see.
and 42 is not enough to have a staff. Like I couldn't hire anybody,
I
and
see.
so that's why I started saying, well, what if I managed some other buildings and we could build a staff, and so built up a pretty successful fee management business in the Midwest.
Why
And that was
Iowa? Is that where your wife was from? Is that why Iowa? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
well, that's where my wife was from. That's where I went to school, and really, it was sort of like going back to Boulder. Like a lot of people moved back to Boulder because they went to CU or something. Like it's one of those where it's like, hey, I just want to. I had this vision of going back to the college town. So we
Okay.
lived in Iowa City, which is a great little college town where University of Iowa is. It's a really cool town. It's got a really great. The writers' workshop is there. It's got a really interesting population and great people. And so we went back there, and
Did
that's where
you
we were based out of.
did you hit some speed bumps in the fall of '08, early '09, right in there? Because I know, I mean, because I think you started doing this in '06, and then fall of '08 comes along. You got some scars from that?
Oh yeah, I got some scar tissue from that. So uh, I got all kinds of scar tissue. That is true. Sort of some of the people listening, I'm sure, thinking about it, which is I think you know there is no lesson like failure, right? That's another one of those sort of cliche things, but it is kind of true that it's important to hit some speed bumps, I think,
Yeah.
or if you're really going to be successful. So yeah, so my speed bump was I was doing the math and thought the more leverage I can put on these things, the more I can buy, and we're in this time of pretty
Mm-hmm.
easy to get bank
Mm-hmm.
loans,
Mm-hmm.
and mezzanine debt. And I thought, boy, 50% is good, but 60% is better. And 80% is really great. Right. And I said, what could go wrong? Um, and that's
Cool.
where, I learned that, hey, markets shift on you, and predictable cash flows can dry up. And so yeah, we had a hard time. The saving grace was we had a bunch of self-storage, and self-storage stayed really, really hot. And so I was able to actually, um, you know, we were able to sell the storage units, and kind of bow out gracefully.
Okay.
But it
All
was
right.
it was personally very, very, very painful, and kind of left us back where we had started. Sort
Mm-hmm.
of back at square one, and not destitute, but really sort of like, well, what are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do now? Is that okay? So then a couple of years goes by, and you're like, "Oh, I guess I better go get a regular job again," as something to that effect, and then you end up having to be an employee for somebody else, or what happens?
Yeah, well, no, it was actually, I was pretty excited for that opportunity because it was actually pretty entrepreneurial. So when we got
Oh,
into single family rentals, I
okay.
got recruited, and it was true. It wasn't going to be my company. I was going back to be an employee. But really, the challenge was coming out of the foreclosure crisis. Could we actually create a new category of institutional real estate called single family rentals that no one had ever managed single family homes at scale? I mean, it always been for 100 years or 2,000 years in some ways, people have been renting out homes, right? Or since the beginning of time, but no one ever said, well, how could we look like a regular multifamily REIT
Hmm.
from a P&L basis, but the underlying asset class is all single family rentals. And so
Okay.
it was pretty exciting time where we were really trying to figure it out, because it was sort of like multifamily in a lot of ways, and then not like it in other ways. And so we
Mhm.
had to apply technology to really make that business work. And so that was the exciting thing for me to bring, is how do we kind of revolutionize property management with technology,
Was that
which was
did that company just sell the software to manage the properties, or did they own the properties as well?
well, we owned the properties. Yeah. So
Right.
it was
Okay.
also writing really cool software around how do you find these opportunities?
Okay.
How do you bid
Okay.
on homes? There was a lot of and data component. How do you know which neighborhood to buy in,
Mm.
and what drives rents? Like all these things that you could just go off the shelf in multifamily. There's a whole REIT analyst community that writes about it like it didn't exist for the single family world. And also in multifamily, one of the things we learned early on, that institutions against, competing with other institutions are very different than an institution competing with the owner who may have one or two homes,
I
right? So
see.
things
Yep.
like trying to get a 4 or 5% rent bump, that's vital. If you own 50,000 rental units, you've got to get that rent bump, right? Like you got to push your rents and get it up. If you own one house, you're either 100% occupied or 100% vacant, right? And so do you say, do I want another $10 a month, or do I just want to keep this person there and happy? Well,
Yeah.
I want to keep them there and happy. Like I don't care about literally $10 more for me a month.
I have one like that. I have one like that right now. I have a duplex in Oklahoma. The lady's been there 15 years,
Right.
and she's probably underpaying by a couple of $100 a month, but I don't care.
Exists. So there you go. That is exactly the mentality. And so you come as an institution and say, well, we're public. We got to go show people we're growing rents, but no one else is moving rents, right? So it was interesting. Like, how do you combat that? How do you kind of move that stuff? Because the story you just described is exactly how every small owner thinks. Is like, it's not worth the hassle. I'm actually just happy it's occupied, and I'm getting it in, and if you have a mortgage, it's covering the mortgage, whatever it is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it was a
Interesting.
pretty exciting time to be in. And actually, if you look at the number of prop tech companies, or even more broadly, just the number of new companies that have been started of people who were at these institutions, it's amazing. So it attracted a tremendous number of entrepreneurs, as it was really a daunting challenge.
Were you the head of were you the CIO slash CTO and the guy that built code, or you hired all the right people to build the software?
We hired people to build the software. So I didn't, now it was definitely, when we were getting going, these were not big companies. So it was like, I was the CTO, the big chief technology officer, but I was also the guy who changed the toner in the printer and helped you if your computer wasn't working. And so
Yeah,
it
man.
was just like a startup. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
cool.
weird because it's like, we're a startup that has $1.5 billion in cash in the bank. But that had to buy houses. That wasn't
I
to
see.
build tech. You know what I mean? It
got
wasn't
you.
like, hey, have an unlimited budget. And so we really were kind of a thrifty little startup.
Did you have equity in these companies?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering. The reason I'm asking that, of course, because it follows the next question which is, did you get to cash out on that, and that's how you had the money to start Smart Home? That's why I was asking.
Yeah. Yeah. In some ways, yes. And then also from some of the other ventures that we had put in the works before that. But yeah, so
Okay.
when we started SmartRent, our co-founder, Sarah Rowdy Bush, and I put in the first $2 million to get it going, and knowing that, because that is so I had some equity in Colony Starwood Homes. and had done well, and also had been running some agency stuff on the side as well, and doing kind of putting money away with the idea of getting ready to go start something. And really, some of the best advice I got, which I didn't follow the first time we were entrepreneurs, but the second time is sort of like, if you're going to go start a company, like make sure you're able to fund it. You don't need a salary, but you don't want to give up too much equity too fast. So you need to be able to fund it, and then make sure that what cascades off of that, the advice I got, which I think was good, was that also means make sure your house is paid for, your cars are paid for, your kids' college fund is filled up. Like don't sort of be set that if, hey, for 2 years nothing goes your way, you're okay.
Exactly.
And that was that's how we started it.
I like that. That's a good tip to kind of pause on for the listeners. And people debate on what that is. Is it a year's salary? Is it 2 years salary? I don't know. All that's up for debate, but yes, you should. My advice as well is go into it thinking, if I don't pay myself a dime over the next 24 months, can we still pay the personal bills while the company's running, while I get this thing going? I mean, yeah, because nobody's going to loan you a bunch of money just so you can pay yourself a fat salary while you start a company, at least most of the time.
Yeah. And if they will, I wonder if you want to take that money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's probably bad money. Okay. So, and who's Sarah, and how did you meet her? How'd you meet your co-founder?
Sarah's my wife. And so we met in
okay.
college. Yeah.
I thought maybe it was somebody different. Okay.
No. Sorry. So yeah. So we had the businesses in Iowa together, and so it's always been a partnership that way.
Okay. Were you nervous? Were you like, okay, are you ready to do this again? Let's put this money in here. Let's do this again after what happened and you had to leave. You left Iowa, and were you nervous?
No, I wasn't nervous. But I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit demented. And I probably should have been really nervous. But I was like, I know this is going to work. But I think there's sort of, I think a lot of the entrepreneurs I've talked to are just eternal optimists. And so we always just think like, hey, it's going to work perfectly. And then sometimes it does. And that's a great thing. But no, I wasn't nervous. I was excited. And I thought, I did have an advantage in starting SmartRent, because as the CTO of a publicly traded REIT, I was looking for this product. I had 2 years where I was searching for it and couldn't find it. Like, I need this. And there were parts of it there, we have a competitive set now at SmartRent. Then those were sort of, a lot of those existed back then. And it's like that no one quite got it exactly right. And there were holes to the platforms. And so I kind of had some conviction saying, look, I would have bought this like in a second if it existed. And that gave me some, more, not data, but some more data type facts of like, this should work if we can get it right.
You saw the need, you had the experience, you had the knowledge, and you saw the need. And you had saved up enough cash to do it. So
yes,
for the listeners, before I start asking you a bunch of questions about SmartRent, why don't we do the quick overview? Give us, for the listeners, it's smartrent.com. You mind giving us the quick overview of the company, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah. No. So we are an enterprise smart home company, and so what that means is we help owners of rental properties, multifamily and single family, manage thousands of different smart devices. So smart locks to control the access, smart thermostats to control the temperatures, leak sensors to protect against water damage. And so the problem that I found was there was a lot of really good hardware that had been built, but no one had thought about, how would I manage this at scale? How would I manage thousands of these devices at the same time? Because you're getting all this new data in. This is one of the problems with IoT, not just at SmartRent, but in general. IoT, we're connecting everything to the internet. Everything's telling us all the time, this is what I'm doing. This is how many times my motor is run. This is my RPM cycle, like really cool stuff. But if it's just flowing at you, it's just a tsunami of data, right? And it's not useful. Totally. It actually hurts your day, right? Like if you get 6,000 emails a day, you're like, well, that's not good. That doesn't help me. And so that's where our platform takes in all that data, harnesses it, and then knows how to point it out in the right direction. So, hey, you're a leak sensor getting wet. I need to go into this other piece of software that the owner uses and write an emergency work order, and we need to send someone to this apartment. And so that's really the what we started out to do. And the only other two things that I'll mention quick is the other things are we actually now also build a lot of hardware. So we were sort of pushed into becoming a hardware company
because couldn't find a supplier.
Right. Couldn't find what we needed. Couldn't find the right pieces. I mean, even things like our leak sensor that we developed, the battery lasts for 10 years. It costs me more to make that. But we're putting thousands of these out. So think about if it's dying every year and it's in your own house, well, who cares? You just go throw a battery in once a year. It's not that big a deal. If you've deployed 300,000 of these, though, that's a lot of work to go replace batteries, right? Like, so,
Gotcha.
So we've done that. And then we've also, from the beginning, we've also handled the installation and the training. So we have a team of people that we show up on site, and it's sort of a white glove experience to get it implemented.
Wow. I just heard you say I'm a service business. I'm a manufacturer of hardware. I'm a SaaS company. What else did I miss?
Yeah. And we're a distributor of hardware, which is sort of like being a manufacturer, but we sell, we distribute thousands of different products as well. Only to our customers. Like I don't sell them.
Oh, okay.
But
white label, you're not white labeling anything to a competitor or anything yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Dare to dream.
So some layman terms questions here. So, so I have, I guess I don't really apply to this yet because I only have 2 rentals, but
we'll talk after, as long as you have a major credit card.
Okay. I like the leak thing, by the way. I like that.
Yeah.
Locking the doors is cool. Unlocking the doors is cool. What else will it tell me? How else can it help a little person like me? Or is it not really designed for me?
It is designed for you. It's designed for anybody who has a rental. So your duplex in Oklahoma is a great candidate. But so it really comes down to, there's sort of three problems we're trying to solve. And the first one, I think, is actually the most important, which is, if you think about the smart home revolution that's been going on, it's been going on for 25 years, right? That we've had smart devices, even before Wi-Fi, right? Renters have been completely locked out and isolated from that. So if you're a renter and you live in an apartment, you can't put a smart lock on your door. That's a violation of your lease, right? Like, you can't change your lock. It's the owner's lock. It's not your lock. You can't take your thermostat off and put a smart thermostat on and save money on utilities. And so part of the revolution that we're bringing is, to renters, we're bringing this smart home technology and the modern way of living. And so things like, you can give your kid a code when they get off the bus. If you're at work, they can enter their code and you get a push notification. Hey, Steve, your son's home from school. It allows you to save $50 to $100 a month on your utilities, especially in the hot climates during the summer. If you think about a renter who's on a fixed income, either elderly or even just 2 working parents, it's saving $100 is not immaterial. It's a really important thing to them. And so I love that aspect of it. That's not enough, unfortunately, though, just to say everyone will put it in. And so that's where the other side of it is for the owner. So the owner of the asset, and that's where we talk about things like the leak sensors, where we're protecting our assets from water damage, which are really, really costly. Or also smart thermostats can also tell us if it's getting too hot or too humid or too cold, if we're about to have freezing pipes or we're about to have mold start to grow.
Can I turn stuff off? One of the problems I have, my wife's always complaining about this. She's like, the gas company, the bill in between the renters. Somebody didn't turn something off or didn't get switched on time. And, I'd love to just be able to turn the water and gas and electricity off from here in Colorado as soon as they move out.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where our system actually has vacant mode that the owner sets up. And again, we're tied into the software. So we know, hey, this resident has left, it's vacant, put it into vacant mode. And things like, you can't put the thermostat to 62 degrees in Atlanta in the summer. Like, it just won't even work. It's not. And so that's all about saving money, protecting assets, and becoming more operationally efficient. So that's that's sort of, and I think we're drifting into infomercial, but that's
sorry,
sort of
Can
no,
can it tell me if they have dogs in the living room when they're not supposed to?
Yeah, we have that ability. You want to be careful how much you're doing that. But yes,
Yeah, I understood.
actually, I know you say that jokingly, but you can with
Smoking?
a decibel meter, you
Smoking?
can yeah, listen for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dogs, smoking. Those are two problems I have. Please don't do that. And okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting off
Yeah,
on a
smoking
record.
is a big one, and actually also one of the, all the legalization of marijuana,
Mhm.
that people don't want to be in the apartment next door with their kids and getting that smoke. And so actually cigarette, tobacco, and other types of smoke are a real issue.
Okay, and you can detect that, and I can get a read from that. I can get an alert or whatever.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, you definitely have my attention now for sure.
Yeah.
Is it affordable? What's the business model? Yeah, walk if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, yes, it's affordable. So it's $500 to $800 per unit for all the hardware and the installation. It depends on code.
Okay.
Like high rises are a little bit more expensive because
That's
of
installation hookup fee or whatever.
Yeah.
Then,
yeah. So we charge for the hardware. We charge for the installation, and then we charge a recurring SaaS fee to have the platform. And that's two platforms, really. It's the platform for you to run your business as the owner. And then it's the front end platform that the resident has the app on their phone to have their living experience.
Mm-hmm. And the SaaS piece, is that a monthly fee per unit, and you get discounts if you have 10,000 units, you get a discount, stuff like that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Monthly fee.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Monthly fee per unit. And then, we work with some of the largest owners. And so we have, bulk discounts for the more units you bring on, of course.
Okay. And do I have to sign a contract? Is it month to month? Is it a year? How's that look?
Yeah. So we sign typically 3 to 5 year agreements.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Sometimes even a little bit longer. Sometimes shorter, but most people want that. It's a big decision. I mean, each unit is affordable, but think about, even on the low end, $500, if you have 50,000 units or 20,000 units, that's a pretty big upfront capital spend.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are pretty thoughtful before putting it in. They're careful. We do a lot of pilots, which we actually recommend, like do a pilot, try it, make sure you're happy with it.
Okay.
And paid pilot. We don't do it just to be good, not for free, but I think that's a good sales strategy, especially in apartments, but in other verticals too, to actually embrace the trial. As salespeople, I think we always want to get the full commitment. Give me everything, but it's I think good for. I try to build conviction internally that people are excited and feeling good about the product and seeing the results, and then they kind of become our own internal promoters within that company.
I love it. I got a couple of questions. This may be drilling down too far, but two things. How does it integrate with, some people now are starting to have certain smart things in their homes. Maybe they already have a thermostat, or maybe they already have a camera system or something. How does that work? Do you tie it together? Do you just remove those and put in all your own stuff? How does that work?
We try to tie it together. So even we like to say we're really hardware agnostic. That doesn't always mean everything works together. So it kind of depends. Like, it doesn't mean everything is going to work, but if we can put it on the platform, we do.
Okay.
So I think the idea, especially in apartments where we don't have sort of unlimited budgets, is, hey, if you just bought a bunch of thermostats, maybe I don't think it's the best, and I can tell you why. Maybe I'd buy something different going forward, but if at all possible, let's leave it in place. That's what we try to do.
One of the things, so I have this system called Simply Safe,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a pretty basic alarm system, right? It's nothing
Yeah.
fancy. I mean, if you know where the cameras are, if you're a bad guy, you just climb up there and do whatever. I mean, I don't think it's going to stop real criminals, but anyway, I have Simply Safe. One of the things that is very obvious is that if I lose power or if I lose my internet connection, I'm toast anyway. So it does nothing for me if either one of those go out. So
Yeah.
I mean, hell, my breaker box is on the outside of my house. A real bad guy just turned a breaker box off, and it don't matter. So,
Right.
how do like how do you get around that?
Yeah.
How do you get
It's
around
not,
the power and the internet issue? I guess is my
it's a,
question.
it's a challenge. I mean, we get around it with a backup battery in our hub and a cellular connection. And so
Ah,
it's
ah,
not, it's not a forever solution, but it does say it'll keep working in the event of a power outage. And then
oh,
a lot of the hardware we like to promote, now your HVAC is not going to work if there's no power anyway, but like the door lock,
right.
I like locks. Like we recommend smart locks that have a ability to put in a code and they run on battery. So you could always get in, whether there was internet or not. And so I like having some of those fail safes in place too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. You're not tied to an alarm system company, or do you buddy up with an alarm system company, or how does that work?
we don't. So we actually have a self-monitored security package. So as a resident, you could buy motion sensors and door and window contact
Ah,
sensors, and then kind of like the Simply Safe that you were describing.
uh-huh.
You say I'm away from my apartment, and it'll alert you if the door gets opened or if it sees motion. And what we found is that most people prefer that to the price and the monitored security.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
I think the
Mhm.
security world is changing a little bit in that way, that when we didn't have smartphones and cameras that we could see remotely and stuff, like it was you needed that interface, but now
Mhm.
you don't always need that monitoring station to call you.
I'm always weirded out when I look at the camera, or if we're away and I look at my phone and I'm watching the camera in the living room. I always think, man, one of these days I'm going to look at that. And I'm going to see somebody crossing the room and I'm going to flip out. Hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
Uh, here's another question. How many employees so far? 400, 500? What do you got?
We have about 630.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah,
After how many years has it been?
7 years.
7 years and 600 employees. Congratulations, Lucas. You're growing like
Thanks.
crazy. You're growing like
We are.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very good. I'm wondering, since I own a staffing and recruiting firm, and I know what it's like to try to, I mean, we deal with all kinds of clients that have constant turnover, especially at the associate field tech level.
Yeah.
I'm just going to guess that keeping techs on staff can be challenging, or have you figured out the magic silver bullet to keep them all happy so you got no turnover?
Yeah, I think that's a leading question. Yeah,
I
no,
just,
I mean, we
uh,
actually do have lower turnover than a lot of firms. I don't think we've figured out some magic bullet. The one thing that we have always done from the beginning, and this was one of Sarah's ideas, was we actually pay for healthcare for every employee and their dependents. So not just the employee, but for their families, and
wow.
even for our field techs. And we actually have some firms that have us, not competitive with us, but where they do it, but only for their software engineers or only for their execs.
That's a
And
big
so I
deal.
always, yeah, I
It's a
thought
big deal.
it's a big expense.
Mhm.
But I think it's incredibly worth it. And I just think it's important. People shouldn't have to worry about the health of their family,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that just allows us to focus more on being productive, I think.
Yes,
So
that's
that's the
good.
one kind of, maybe if something we point at that I think helps, and that also allows us to recruit people that matters to, which I
Mhm.
think is a that's a good group of people to
It
have.
is. Agreed. No, yeah, good move. Do they get to drive the truck home? So it's kind of like a company vehicle?
We don't have company vehicles,
Okay.
and so they get to drive the rental car when they're on the road, but otherwise they're in their car. But they get
I see.
that's sort of our next phase. It's
Okay.
funny because you're growing so fast, like you don't have time to do some of the things you should be doing, like a fleet vehicle contract and stuff. So it's sometimes you look up and you're like, yeah, we're behind, but I'd rather be behind and growing like this than ahead
Yeah.
and saying no to business.
Have you, some of these questions you may not want to share, but it's okay if you don't, but have you had to put in more cash than what you guys put in from the beginning, or was that enough to get it going and you're profitable, you're not burning cash, or where are you at with cash?
Yeah, well, no, we're so I mean, well, I'll start the first. No, we haven't put in additional cash.
Okay,
We have
good.
raised a lot of cash.
Oh, you have? Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me, but if you don't mind, what can you share on cash raise?
Sure, yeah. And we went public almost 2 years ago and raised 500 million. So that was the last time we raised money. And so that's allowed us to really be in a great liquidity position. Where we're and we've said this publicly, so I can say it to you. You know, we're on track to cross into being profitable this year, EBITDA positive, and so that's going to allow us, really, in my mind, to say now we're going to be a kind of a real company. Like, I don't like burning cash. I don't enjoy that. So we raised we did like an angel round. That was the first outside money we brought in. And then we did an A round, a B round, and a C round. And so raised a lot of different rounds.
And when did you go public?
August of 21.
August of 21. And I noticed the stock price is probably not where you want it to be as of today. Is that because we're in a shitty ass market with a high inflation, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yes. And we came public via SPAC. And so it was a great market for that when we went public. It was a great opportunity. But investors in Wall Street are very binary. It's sort of either it's great or it's not great. And that's sort of the knee-jerk reaction. And so, yes, we're a growth story. I mean, we're an early public company. You're betting on our growth, you know, and at the time when we came public, there was a real thirst for yield because rates had been so low. And so people were aggressively looking for growth. And there was a huge premium on growth, which we took advantage of. And then that went exactly the other way as rates went up and we didn't have the same thirst for yield. You know, growth is all terrible. And so it's sort of that guardrail to guardrail. But I tell you, you know, I wasn't a seller where we debuted at our IPO. So and I'm not a seller today, so I think it's actually a great opportunity, and we've used it in some ways as a recruiting tool. You know, to say, hey, get in while it's good. You know, and
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah.
Believe me, I was thinking the same thing today. Well, because your market cap is what, almost 700 million or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And so
we have 200 million in cash. So that, you know, the enterprise value.
That's yes. I mean, and you're not, and now you're profitable. You can be profitable because you don't have to grow as fast.
That's right. We're on our way to being profitable. You know, either Q3 or Q4. We've said that's when we're going to cross over.
Right.
And that is, you know, that
Get in
was
now.
the intention.
Get in now. Buy the stock now, because as soon as I
Exactly.
start, you know, okay, all right, everybody. Did everybody hear that? By the way, what's this ticker? What's the symbol? What are you trading under? What is it?
It's a SMRT.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Do you wish? Are there times when you're like, I wish I hadn't gone public?
No, because actually, you know what I actually really like about it, because I've been at other public companies, and I was with Home Store when we had an IPO, so I've been to other IPOs. But I like the sort of rigor and discipline that it brings to everyone.
It's true.
It's sort of not the same sort of ping pong VC startup, and I prefer that to that. Like, I never let us have a ping pong table in the office, because my first job at All Apartments, my desk was next to the ping pong table, and all I heard all day long was ping pong balls flying off paddles. And so like, I'm never gonna have a ping pong table in the office. So I think I'm more of that. I skew more to that. Like, I don't want to have like, the startup was great, but it really is, you're doing everything you can to get going, and then now you get to sort of enjoy having some rigor and some discipline, and really.
It's true. That is a great point, Lucas. Yeah, I can, you know, I wasn't a CEO for a public company, but I was a CEO for a couple of smaller $40 million companies that did have quarterly board meetings, and you know, preparing the board book and doing all these things. It does kind of force you to make your bed and dust the furniture, and, you know, kind of, okay.
Yeah.
Let me just call time out and get all this ready, and then go in and tell everybody where we're at and what we're going to do. And it's a good exercise. Yeah, it does. Because guess what? With Riderflex right now, I don't do any of that.
Yeah, that sounds nice too some days to me, but yeah, but no, so I like it. I like, and
Good for
I
you.
like
Good,
the
good.
public markets. I think you got to be in it for the long haul, though, the long term. We
Yeah.
always were. Like, I wasn't trying to get public and have my exit, and so
Mhm.
it's a
Okay.
good fit for us.
Two last questions. I know we're almost out of time. If somebody was going to acquire you, who are some possible targets there right now?
Well, I don't know. It's a good question, but I like thinking about how do we stay independent, public, and big. So there's lots of people with big checkbooks, and
Yeah.
if somebody really wanted to get into multifamily, we'd be an obvious person to look at. So if you were in other categories of real estate, but ultimately, I just feel like where our stock is, like, it's not even really on my mind.
Okay.
Like we have work to do.
Translation, you wouldn't sell for whatever the market cap number is right now. No way.
No, I wouldn't sell for anywhere even near that.
Even near that. Yeah. Then the last question is, are you the majority stockholder right now? No, you're not. Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So technically this is I always get this question from early aspiring entrepreneurs. So the reality is, if the board decided, if they woke up one day and like, we don't like Lucas anymore, they could eject you from the business. I mean, technically, right? I guess
100%. Absolutely.
Um,
And if anyone says that's not on their mind, I think they're probably lying. So yeah, I
exactly.
mean, everything you built could be like, hey, sorry, thanks. And it happens, by the way. Look,
all the
I mean,
time.
there's some big ones, but
All
it
the
happens
time.
even with small ones.
So the reason I bring that up is because I think it's kudos to you. The fact that you built this thing from the start, you grew it to 600 employees, you've taken it public. Here we are in a little bit of a down cycle right now. And you are still there. They still believe like, no, we need Lucas. Like, because if they didn't, they would have already ejected you. Right. And you're still there and you're
required to, right?
Yeah.
That's their job.
It's their job. But they haven't, which means they definitely believe in you, and you've done a great job, obviously, of keeping everybody happy, which God knows is not easy.
Yeah. Well, I try, but I mean, I think more than even keeping people happy is just, I think everyone needs to see the passion and the fire that's still there. And that doesn't matter if you're private, public, whatever, that I still have a tremendous amount of belief in what we're building.
Mhm.
And I know a short-term stock price isn't gonna knock me off of that. Like, we've made incredible strides. We've done incredible things, and a market turn isn't gonna dissuade me from that passion.
Good man. Good man. Lucas, congratulations
Thanks,
on
guys.
everything, my friend. Just for the listeners, one more time, smartrent.com. And I'm sure that he has the investor button down at the bottom. You can get all the information you need, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you sharing your story on the Riderflex podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, Steve. Thank you.